welcome back to the Prepare Like a Pro podcast. This week on the show, we have Tom Mackenzie. Tom is one of our strength and conditioning coaches at Prepare Like a Pro. He is also the strength and conditioning assistant at the Geelong Football Club and head of strength and conditioning at Anglesey Football Club. Prior to commencing his career as a strength and conditioning coach, Tom was a competitive footballer playing in the NAB League and VFL football. He also competed in a marathon where he ran a sub-3-hour marathon post his football career. Before we start episode 37, the Prepare Like a Pro podcast mission is to empower aspiring athletes and staff with practical knowledge from some of the industry's most inspiring individuals and to strengthen the AFL community. If you like the show, please show your support by following us on Instagram as well as subscribing to the podcast. We're on YouTube, iTunes and Spotify. All right, let's get into it, guys. Just sending a invitation. There he is. How you going, mate? Yeah, going well.
Not too bad. Did that work all right? First Instagram live video, so I wasn't sure it worked, mate.
It's worked perfectly, mate. You're on. I can hear you loud and clear. Got a little bit of fuzziness going on, but that might subside as in the screen. It's a little bit fuzzy, but audio-wise is perfect, mate. Let's jump into it. Let's start at the very beginning, mate. When did you find the love for the game of football?
Well, I guess started as a junior through Auskick, growing up in Anglesey down in Victoria. Yeah, playing down there, and then went through my junior football. The Geelong Falcons, was lucky enough to represent some good teams there, and that was probably a bit of an up and down ride through that initial. As I got older through the Falcons, I had quite a few injuries and got a little bit disenfranchised with it. As I went to senior, I sort of played a little bit of VFL football and then sort of lost the passion a little bit, to be perfectly honest. Played the rest of my senior footy at the Uni Blues in the BAFA. And yeah, then really sort of got back into it and enjoyed it. And eventually that's where I sort of found myself down this path.
Yeah, fantastic. And you mentioned losing the passion. Was there something that you can finger point a reason being, or was it multifactorial?
Yeah, it was just injuries. I had a sort of really recurring tendonitis in my knee. I had some other stuff going on at home that wasn't great. And yeah, I just, as I said, just sort of lost it from there. Took, what did I take, 18 months off, 2 years off before getting back into it. And yeah, and then the penny really didn't drop, I don't think, about that, sort of looking after my body the way I needed to till quite a bit later. Yeah, which again sort of led me into this path in the sort of the strength and conditioning world. Eventually I got there. Yeah,
fantastic, mate. That's awesome. And yeah, maybe take us through the beginning. At what point did you start your strength and conditioning career? What was your first role in the industry of fitness or strength and conditioning? Was it at Anglesey, working in the clinic?
Yeah. So yeah, I started as a PT, which was reasonably recently. So yeah, I actually started a sports science degree when I first left school when I was 18. And then I did 6 of it and then was, I don't know if this is for me. I don't know if I'm going to ever get a job in this. It was packed with 18-year-old kids like myself. Anyway, worked, did a whole heap of other things. As I said, played the rest of my senior footy. And then as I sort of got older, I really started to sort of get back into it and develop that kind of love and passion that I always had for strength and conditioning and performance and rehab and everything like that. I guess I realized that I was spending all my time outside of work, listening to podcasts, doing my own research, doing my own training. That was all I wanted to do. So I eventually, this is probably 2 ago now, I was like, why don't I do this for a job? And yeah, mate, it's been awesome ever since. So yeah, then I actually went back and now I'm finishing the degree I started 10 years ago, which is nice. Doing it a little bit smarter this time. And yeah, and then I've loved every minute ever since. And then yeah, working as a PT and then yeah, working with Anglesey was my first opportunity to sort of run a program. Learning off yourself has been fantastic. And then my boss, who I work with, Jace Kelly down at Anytime Fitness in Grovedale, where I sort of do a lot of rehabilitation and things like that with him, have also been awesome. And obviously, yeah, now with the Cats in a role there has been an amazing opportunity. Then it's been great.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. Yeah, it's interesting to when your journey starts and how it unfolds. So you did a little bit of travel as well. I remember speaking to you about exploring some different things. And what field were you working in before strength and conditioning, personal training, after?
I was in originally wanted to be a journo. Then I was working at Channel 9. You might have seen my hand on the news a few times. I would go out and interviews and stuff like that. And then I ended up moving into the corporate sales side of the business at Channel 9. Yeah, so I was, just sitting at a desk, going out, taking clients out, things like that. And then we moved over to London, and then I was working at a school over there and just decided to start sort of a fitness group for parents. And that's where I sort of started training. That's where I was doing training for marathons and things like that. I was really getting into it and doing a lot of study outside of work and everything like that, and decided to give it a crack and just sort of start a little fitness group with the parents and just said, oh, this is something this is what I want to do. And yeah, that's when it sort of clicked, and I'm like, oh, I can actually do this and I can get a job in this and be successful in it.
Yeah, fantastic. So that was your first taste of running a class and designing your own workouts, and you just loved it, did you?
Yeah, exactly. From there, I just sort of went from there, and then it just was, okay, let's take what I've sort of learnt myself and taught myself through, as I said, all that self-education. And I think a huge part of it came from like my rehabilitation. I have had 2 ACL reconstructions, and the things I learned as I had a really good physio the first time around. I was with Randall Cooper, who was just awesome, the way he sort of laid things out for me and structured my sort of rehab. I think that sort of kick-started me into it. And then, yeah, it was all taking all those little things that I'd applied over that time. And then I just started, took the class, started writing programs for just friends and things like that. And then, did my certificate in personal training, and then started at uni after that.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a good message for young trainers out there, or anyone or even not young ones, but young ones that maybe did stop their degree at a younger age and are doing something else, but they still feel they have a passion for it. It takes a bit of courage to leave a career and go back and follow your passion. Did you for sure it was the right move, or when you were doing what you're currently finishing the degree now, do you feel that it's everything you want it to be now that you know what you can do with it by getting that experience in England and taking classes?
Yeah, I think when you're younger and you first go to your degree, you kind of just do, what, I'll do that. Or there's lots of people end up in that sort of mindset, I think. But yeah, being a little bit older and having tried all these other jobs, and it was hard. Don't get me wrong, it was hard to start up fresh and go back to square one where you're not earning much money and you're a bit older, which makes it a bit harder. It's easier to 18, but yeah, it just, as I said, sorry, something just flicked up, it distracted me. It's hard to come back and to do it, but I think you can take a little bit more out of the degree and take things what you're going to use and what you can't use, and I think as well, just making sure you're forming those connections with people throughout it that maybe as a younger student I didn't do. I wasn't really concerned about, but taking it a little bit more seriously as a mature age student, mate. Yeah, for sure.
And you've mentioned a couple of ACL reconstructions. What were things that you learnt during that experience that you now apply as a practitioner with younger footballers?
I think the main one, and I guess because I went through 2, but there was a lot of lessons from the first ACL to the second ACL that I now definitely apply all the time. And I think it applies not just to injury rehabilitation, but training. I think the first ACL I went through, and I don't know if Adrian Peterson, the running back he's an NFL player. Anyway, he did his ACL and he came back. So I think it was like towards the end of the season, did his ACL, came back 8 months later, and I think he was like 7 yards short of the single season rushing record. Like, it was just this insane recovery. And it was not long after that I did mine. So I was watching a lot of Adrian Peterson videos.
Yeah.
Who's just jacked, massive, super explosive, super powerful, doing all these workouts and stuff like that. So I'm watching him and I'm approaching my rehab the same way. And if it's sore, doesn't matter, get in there, do everything as it's written to the letter.
Yep.
Really pushing the envelope. And it was just not a good read. Really, it took me the full year and then some to really come back. And I was sore, and it was just a long process. Then played that year, done it, did the second one playing basketball with friends, did my other knee, just in both of them were kind of fairly freak incidents. But with the second time round, much better at just listening to my body. And I went as time went on, the first time around, I realized you need to rest it when it's sore. And when your body's giving you the sign, hey, you need to take a little bit of time off, to listen to it. And the second time around was great. 8 months I was, running consistently, feeling good. And it was, the difference was just if it was sore, I did something lighter. I might have done the prescribed work. I did it less. If something else was bothering me, I'd go get a massage, I'd go do that, and I'd just take the day. And I think that then that applies, as I said, where I've now apply that when I train people. It's your body will give you a clue before you get injured. People go, I've never done a hamstring. I did a hamstring. And then, most of the time, if you go back a week, they might have had a tight back, or their calf was a bit sore or something. Their body sort of gave them a little clue. Hey, this load's a little bit high, or you're not recovering well, you're stressed outside of work, something's not right. So I think that's a huge part of what I now try to instill in people that I'm coaching, whether it's athletes or just everyday people, is to listen to those cues and to really just be aware of your body. And what always is written down isn't always the best session for you. And sometimes it is important to rest and recover, whether it's doing less, or you just change the workout, or you communicate with myself or someone like you. Hey, I'm not feeling flash. Is there something else we can do today? That's been probably the biggest thing I took out of that rehab. And again, it was one of those things where I did it and I'm like, why don't more people know this? Why don't more people, and that's where I sort of started to get into it and go, well, maybe there's something I can do. And I can feel that I can provide people that maybe others aren't as well.
Absolutely. And it gives you strong empathy because you've been through it, the grind, that it's such a long process. And it goes through ACL reconstruction, let alone too. So the mental game, like you mentioned about stress and how important managing that is. How are some things like what would you do with a younger player that maybe hasn't had an injury and might be in that mode of they're just pushing themselves to the limit all the time, pushing the envelope, like you said, and you want to try and prevent them from learning from their own mistakes that you learn from yours. Yeah. But what would be some things that you do with those guys?
Yeah, and certainly I think you find this with younger, as I said, you end up like myself watching videos of whether it's Adrian Peterson or whether it's whoever it is, the video you see is always them working the hardest. That's their hardest session, whether it's in the month or that's the one they want you to see. It's the one they're doing all the cool stuff. They're not stretching or anything like that. That's the hard see. So I think it's, especially as a younger person, you can see and go, that's what I need to do. I just need to do these brutal hits workouts or these savage 10 by 10 squat sessions or whatever it is. So I think it's when I start with a younger person, I think it's a lot of just chatting and trying to educate them. This is where we want to be, or this is where you want to be. This is how we're going to get you there. And I think just educating people about the reasoning behind each session that they're doing, so they don't just sort of get in there sort of grinding away, where you come into each session with a real clear focus. This is what I'm working on today. This is why I'm working on it, because it's going to get me here. And I think that then sort of can help pull a lot of, because with a lot of young footballers especially, I probably don't need to motivate you to work that hard. You already want to work hard. It's potentially motivating you to potentially hold yourself back or to get the quality out that we want to get, rather than just intensity for intensity's sake. And I think another important thing beyond that, which I sort of touched on a little bit in my own sort of experience, is ensuring that their lifestyle, which I know we're big on in Prepare Like a Pro, ensuring their lifestyle is there to support that training. I want to write you a really program that's challenging and it's going to set the bar here. But if you set up your nutrition, if your sleep's not where it needs to be, if you're stressed, if you're going through school exams and things like that, then if we can't support that training, then we need to have a discussion and we need to figure out how we can support it before we then go in and add load and add extra stress to the system that's probably not ready for it at that stage. So yeah, just being educating around that, which I think a lot of people can underestimate the importance of. Everyone, you sort of hear it, but yeah, the importance of those factors outside of the weight room or outside of the training track are just as important.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, you've touched on a couple of really amazing points, and I know individualization gets thrown around a lot with strength and conditioning, and like you said, reading your body. Like if you can have that relationship with the athlete where they feel comfortable to let you, I'm feeling a little bit off here, I've got some stuff going on at home, or my nutrition's been off for a few days, or they're feeling really good, whatever it might be. And you could be able to change that plan to be able to suit that athlete for who's in front of you and how they're going. Ultimately, you're going to go places by accumulating great sessions over time, that quality that you talked about, opposed to one huge session, like you said, the 10 by 10 squats or doing 10K running session. If that breaks you down and good for a couple of weeks, you're not going to get better that way. So yeah, I think it's a great message that you're sharing. It adds a lot of strength, the fact that it comes from experience playing at a high level and then going through some setbacks that you have gone through, and then now you've got the education and the experience of learning with Anglesey, where you get to apply in the clinic with Jace, as well by now being in the environment of Geelong Footy Club. But on that note, what are some things that you've learned with the Geelong Footy Club that you've enjoyed over the last couple of months?
It's just been fantastic just to see and like we've just been talking about, just the intensity, but B, the quality of the session when you're dealing with athletes at that level, to see the joke around before training and have a laugh with you, but then to watch them out on the track when it's just the focus is just narrowed in and that's all that matters at that moment. They don't worry about anything else, especially watching the really good players we've got, so the Pat Daney, the Jeremy Camerons, those sort of blokes. When it's time to go, they go. And yeah, it's just been awesome to be exposed to that and to see it firsthand, to see how those guys operate. And then, to look at, how can I apply this to some of the stuff we're doing at Prepare Like a Pro, what I'm doing, my personal training or my rehab stuff that I do. Yeah, I think that's been probably the main thing that I've really taken away from it. Yeah, and sort of like knowing what the session is, but then having the focus to get, as I said, that quality out of it to get the most out of it. But then you see him afterwards, and we're switched off and having a bit of a laugh. So I think on that as well, having the ability to sort of turn it on and turn it off when you need to. that's important, especially for younger footballers as well. It can be sort of, go, go, go. We've got to do this with all the rah, rah, rah outside of training. Whereas you've got to be able to switch it off as well and kind of relax. And I think that's, being able to see that at the Cats has been great.
Yeah, it's such a great point. It seems to be the trend with footballers as well as people that just went through 2020 COVID challenges, of that ability to be able to switch off and switch on, whether you're working from home and you're trying to work out that balance between home life and work life, or you're a footballer stuck in the hub. It seems to be a lesson that, universally everyone's learnt on that, finding that balance and the importance of having a break, because it's a long season for footballers or for staff. And it can be a long year in your job if you're not being able to have that switch off and that laugh moment with your peers. So that's awesome. Yeah. It's a good point to make, and it's something that you wouldn't particularly learn about that. You sort of have to see that stuff, don't you? You have to be in the environment to see the power it has. Yeah,
and as you said, and it applies not just, we're talking about it in a performance sense, but as you mentioned, it's not just elite athletes that applies to, or aspiring athletes. That's everyone knowing when, like, I need to focus and get the most out of this next hour, and when I can just go and enjoy vegging out on the couch and not feel guilty about it. Just go, I'm switching off now. Whereas I think a lot of times we get caught in that sort of in between where you're kind of, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, and you sort of end up doing not much of anything. As I said, it applies to life, that applying that kind of mindset of switch on, switch off. And I guess that's something I like to try and educate my guys that are training with me as well, that how does things they like doing and things they like to do outside of training as well, that's just as important.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And you've mentioned a lot of things you've learned along the way. Are there specific training methods or things in the gym that you wish you knew when you were playing at Geelong Falcons that you now know? All this knowledge that you've got, what would be a couple of things that you wish you knew back then?
A few, mate. But I think for me, which a lot of athletes in general, but a lot of younger athletes, especially for me, it was mobility. I've always, it's been a really thing, something I've had to work on really hard. Something I didn't work on really hard when I was younger. And as I said, I sort of ended up with, I had kind of hips, knees, groins were always a little bit just hanging in there, it felt like. If I could impart anything on younger athletes, it would be the importance of a recovery as well. But if you have something that's potentially limiting you, for me it was mobility. You were sitting at school for hours at the desk, and you need to be doing outside of that to try and negate the effect of that, and not just running out and then your warm-ups, kick a few goals and then get straight into training. I mean, if I had my time again, my warm-up would have been a big, long little mobility circuit and then get the body moving properly. And then, I guess on top of that, it would just be, just general kind of strength stuff that I've learned over the time that, I think I could have done a lot better, where everything was kind of 12 reps, feel the burn, kind of wasn't a lot of power work. There wasn't, we didn't sort of build a base of strength and then it was sort of almost like a bodybuilding workout that's not really appropriate for sport, or not the most appropriate way to sort of train an athlete. Yeah, okay. And was that something that everyone was doing, so that's why you were doing it? Or was it something that you just at the time you liked doing the bodybuilding type of training? Yeah, I think that's just how, it's your classic bro split kind of workout. You're doing chest Monday and you're doing back Tuesday and you're doing legs whenever. Probably not much legs. That was the workout. And that's just what we were given as well. So I think strength and conditioning's come a long way since I was at TAC Cup. But that was just what we were given. That's what everyone was doing. I wouldn't do that now. I started doing exactly the same thing. It's just what you see, isn't it? You get given, I think I was given a bench press at the age of 13 with a leg extension machine. Yeah, no. Yeah, fantastic, mate. Well, we'll start to wrap it up. Well, thank you so much for sharing all your experiences, stories, and things you've learned along the way. What are you most excited about for 2021? You've got plenty going on at the moment. What's something that you're particularly pumped about? Super excited to start work and keep working with Prepare Like a Pro and have the opportunity to develop some young athletes and maybe some older athletes as well, footballers, whoever. Really excited to get cracking into that with everyone down the Geelong area. Excited to keep doing work at the Cats throughout the season. I've done obviously the pre-season so far, so I'm really intrigued to kind of see how our role develops in the strength and conditioning team over the season. And I'm about to sign. I'm not sure I can sign up just yet with COVID, but I'm a bit not game to sign up just yet. But I'm looking at Ironman Busselton. Wow! So huge. Yeah, so looking to sign up for that in December. So really excited, mate. So you've been training a fair bit at the moment. What would a typical week look like? I'm sort of trying to do at least sort of 2 runs, 2 swims, 2 bikes at the moment, and then I've just signed up for a coach who will send through the program for next week. But yeah, at the moment it's just kind of getting used. I'm a terrible swimmer, so I'll probably end up doing more swims. I'm not a great swimmer, and I haven't spent a heap of time on the bike, so I'd say most of it will be sort of focused on those ones, working on not drowning will be the number one.
Yeah, it's important. So that's something on the bucket list. You've wanted to do an Ironman. When did you sort of have that?
Yeah. My old man did an Ironman, and so I've always sort of had it on the bucket. Didn't really think it was achievable for most of the time, but then after I sort of did the marathons, I was like, oh, maybe I could do it. So yeah, I think it's one of those things you just sign up for, and then you find a way to make it happen.
Oh, that's very inspiring, mate. Well done. When you got the sub 3 hour marathon, had you done a few of those beforehand, or how many marathons have you done?
I've done 2. So the first one, and then got a bit obsessed with training, and I was like, I reckon I could do it under 3 hours. And then was lucky enough to get a spot in the London, got a lottery ticket in the London Marathon, and was lucky enough to get that. And you see, I saw the photo you post. I'm pretty skinny. Helps when you're 10 kilos lighter. You can run a bit quicker.
You got to be, don't you? Running economy.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic, mate. Well, it's great to have you as part of the Prepare Like a Pro team, being our regional strength and conditioning coach as well. And you're doing big things, mate. And can't wait you to get down to the gym as well and check out Edge. And
absolutely.
We'll talk shop. But thanks for jumping on, mate. And it's been a pleasure to have you on. And I'm sure a lot of people got a lot out of it as well. So thank you for sharing your experiences.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, Tom. We'll speak soon, mate. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, guys, make sure to join our subscriber list. You can do that by clicking the link in our bio, where we've got over 1,000 footballers subscribed to our website, preparelikeapro.com. When you do subscribe, you'll receive a free strength and conditioning program, as well as high-performance presentations from our AFL experienced coaches. If you want to work with one of our coaches one-on-one or have an online program, email us at support@preparelikeapro.com. or you can simply direct message us where we'll send you details. Remember to subscribe to the podcast. We're on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify.